Welcome, and this is not a weak welcome. Wherever you are in your journey, you are welcome here. And it's good to know in Shalom that there is a coffee hour following the service, and then after that there is a feedback, and you are certainly welcome to remain for that. That's a very good experience, and you can ask questions about things in the service or things that were said and done. And sometimes we get off the subject a little bit, but it's always interesting, and we hope that you will come to feedback. I have a number of announcements here. To reduce the spread of aerosols during our worship time, that involves singing, chanting, and speaking. We are taking the following precautions. All are to remain masked in the sanctuary, with the exception of the pastor, the liturgist, the hymn leader, soloists while at the pulpit microphone or designated microphone. Masking is optional in all other spaces in the church building, although it is always a respectful choice. This includes optional masking in the narthex during the worship service. Today, Shalom is commemorating Orange Shirt Day in the United States. Orange Shirt Day was observed officially for the first time on September 30th, 2021. Someday soon, it is hoping that September 30th will be commemorated as the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, as it is in Canada. For more information and additional resources, see the September Sharentella. We are also happy to welcome Melina Fairlight Pinkham and Curtis Purcham. We're very glad to have you in our service and participating today. And they are guest speakers later in the service. Tomorrow is the first day back for Kids Club and Youth Group. Kindergartens through 10th graders are invited to Shalom on Mondays from 5:30 to 6:30. Contact Ashley for more information. You can find Ashley's email on the welcome page in the bulletin, as well as in the Sharentella and the weekly updates. Next Sunday, October 2nd, Shalom will participate in the UCC special offering entitled Neighbors in Need. The offering supports UCC churches and other organizations doing justice work in their communities. Thank you for your support in supporting this offering. And now I believe Jack has an announcement.
I'm Jack Johannesson. I am a paraeducator at Richland High School. I wanted to let you know that you have the opportunity to support Richland High School choirs. They're doing a fundraiser, selling popcorn and also some gluten-free baking mixes like brownies, pancakes, pizza crust, and scones. And they're also selling coffee. The popcorn is a wide variety of sea salt caramel, cheddar cheese, cinnamon crunch, white cheddar, caramel apple, Rose City, mix, country kettle, and sharp cheddar. Or if you really want to support them, you get the 2-gallon tin. Anyway, you can see me. Thank you.
I invite you to stand as you are able and comfortable and join with me in the call to worship. We walk in wonder beneath the sun and the stars.
Creation is God's masterpiece, and we are blessed to share it.
We give thanks for the air, the land, the water.
And for all the creatures joined together in the web of life.
Beauty is before us, around us, over us, and beneath us.
We join our hearts, minds, and spirits as one in thanks and awe.
Our first hymn this morning is number 11, Bring Many Names.
Beautiful and good,
darkness, far beyond our seeing, closer yet than breathing, everlasting home. Hail and Hosanna, great living God. Please be seated.
As we come this day, bringing all that we are and all that we have, we offer to this community this moment of joy, of sharing our joys and sharing our concerns. And you will be invited to do so. Jim will bring a microphone to you, so simply just raise your hand. He will hold the microphone, but state your name and share your joy or share your concern with this community. I have two joys I want to share this morning. Tim L. had hip surgery on Monday. He's doing very well, or as he said, so far, so good. And so we surround Tim and Gail with our thoughts and our prayers for full recovery. Today is Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. And this is one of Judaism's holiest days. It means the first of the year. So Rosh Hashanah commemorates the creation of the world and marks the beginning of the days of awe, a 10-day period of introspection and repentance that culminates in the Yom Kippur holiday. So, as you are out and about today, or even through this week, and you greet one of your Jewish friends, say to them, Shana Tova. Shana Tova. You want to try that with me? Shana Tova, which simply means Happy New Year. Or a good year to you. If you feel a little anxious about that, you can also just say Happy New Year, and that will be well received. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are the two high holy days in the Jewish, are two of the biggest high holy days in the Jewish religion. So to our Jewish siblings, we say Shana Tova. Other joys, other concerns that you'd like to share today?
So Jobetta is now the age of the answer to the life, the universe, and everything.
I'm Maggie Nielsen, and I had the joy of going to Ed Sidson last weekend, and I really want to say it was a great example of the inclusiveness of our church and congregation. There's nothing like taking someone on the autism spectrum to a place where there's going to be 30 people in one room many times during the day. And everybody was kind to Connor. They made an effort to talk to him. Nobody said, how come you aren't mixing with people? Because we always sat in the corner because of his anxiety. And he is willing to go next year, which is a huge indication of how comfortable he felt, even though the anxiety increased over the weekend. So next year when we do this again, I truly encourage you to go. It's really a great experience.
I'm Judy J. I have concerns about my friend Sheila, who has been running a fever for today is the 19th day, following cellulitis as the result of an immunization, a flu immunization. So please carry Sheila in your prayers.
Hi, my name's Carol, and I have two dear friends here from Spokane. And I've known Chris for 40 or 50 years, I can't remember. But anyway, it's wonderful to have them here.
Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Mary, and I'm very thankful for the special week I just had. My sister from Anacortes picked me up, and last Monday we drove to Missoula to visit our brother and sister-in-law, and yesterday she drove me, she did all the driving, back to Richland, and now she's headed home. But we had a wonderful time all together.
I would one concern about Joyce B. and Roger. So keep them in your prayers. And my joy is our special guest today. Looking forward to it.
Yes.
My joy for the day is to enjoy another day, a great gift from the Creator.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. As we come to this time of prayer, prayers of the people that we will share together as we read responsively the prayers printed in your bulletin, we'll enter into a moment of silence. But before we do that, I want to share with you these words. On many occasions when the Pacific Northwest United Church of Christ gets together, there's often a sharing of a land acknowledgement. And so this is one sharing that we have today as a concern. For thousands of years, First Nations people have walked on this land and are still here. Their relationship with the land is at the center of their lives and spirituality. Shalom gathers on the traditional territories of the Yakima, the Cayuse, Umatilla, and Walla Walla. And as this was and is a huge crossroads and a trading center because of the three rivers, we should also include the Wanapum and the Palouse people as well. We acknowledge their stewardship of this land throughout the ages and the present day. And so may we live in respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with its people. Let's enter into this moment of silence. Holy One, Creator God, God of many tribes and nations, by every name you are known, you bless the earth. By your spirit and imagination, light the path to right relationships. Break the stereotypes, banish inaction, and bring justice. End the long apartness that has wounded our souls. Help us to understand each other clearly and rejoice in one another's strength. Help us to listen to each other deeply and join in the friendship dance. Help us guard each other's rights and walk long together in good company. Help us risk building honorable relationships and find your direction for us. Give us courage, creativity, and commitment for our journey to keep faith with each other and also with you. Holy One, Creator, God, beyond tribes and nations, be with us all. Amen. Now we invite the children to come forward for a time of children's chat. Good morning. I have a little something for you today. At the beginning of the month, several persons from Shalom joined our friends across the region to honor the ancestral homeland Chamna, where the Yakima River flows into the Columbia River. And I am grateful to the Confederated Tribes and Bands of the Yakima Nation as they help educate the wider community about an illegally constructed causeway located at Bateman Island in Richland. Have you ever been to Bateman Island? Well, this illegally constructed causeway located there is a concern. And so on the first day of September, they shared the Yakima Nation's comprehensive salmon recovery strategy. And while I was there, some of the people from the Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission gave me something to give to you. And I brought those today. These are called salmon activity books. Take one and pass it down. I think I've got enough here. These salmon activity books are to share with you, the children of Shalom, and they want you to have one of these to enjoy and to learn. Their goal is to put fish back in the rivers and restore the watersheds where fish live. Now, why is that an important goal? To put fish back into the rivers and restore the watershed. That's right, so animals can still live. We need fish in the waters to help the animals live, and we need the fish to live too, don't we? That's right. Well, on page 17 is my favorite page, if you want to turn to it. Page 17, the page numbers are tiny, tiny, tiny on the bottom. But it looks like this page right here. It's got a lot of drawings on it. Yeah, that's it. You see the big fish on one side. It's a big salmon. And that's salmon called Nusuk, the salmon. Oh, I'm sorry, you are correct. So page 16, no, well, I don't know what number that is. Mine says 7. Oh, the big fish is 16. And the next page is 17. That's right. With all these drawings, it's kind of hard to make that out, isn't it? This is one of my favorite activities. It's have you ever done Where's Waldo?
Yeah.
Oh, I've spent many, many, many hours looking for Waldo when my children were young. And on this page is this drawing that has you look for several things, and it's called water quality. It's a picture of a river and lots of things going on around the river. And so it says at the top, just like you, salmon need fresh, clean water to stay healthy. Did you know that salmon need fresh, clean water to stay healthy? Well, that's true. Today we know how to improve and protect water quality. And below is a river community doing a variety of activities, some that protect the river and some that don't. And so what you're supposed to do is find these things that protect the river and some of these things that don't protect the river. Those qualities that protect the river are like the recycling center. Can you see that? Yeah, there it is. There's what's called an air monitoring station. I haven't found that one yet. Controlled runoff. And I'm not sure how you find this one, but it's called limited development. Oh, that's good. That one works. And someone riding a bike. I bet you could find that, but it's going to take a while. It's kind of like Waldo. The things that don't protect water quality that they want you to find are cows in a floodplain, clear cutting in a forest, factory on a riverbed, and river dumping. So these are things that you can hunt for and draw or circle. But there are lots of other things to learn about salmon in the salmon activity book. Yes?
When I was in
165 days in the school year, we've learned about salmon.
For 165 days in the school year? Wow.
We learned how electricity is made and how salmon travel to the ocean from the Columbia River, and then they come back to the Columbia River. Unless they die.
Right, and that's what this book talks about. I like this saying on the back, so I'll hold it up to everyone as I read it. It says, "We are all salmon people." Did you know that? And I'm going to mispronounce this, but help me out if I get it wrong. Waikanushpum. Waikanushpum means salmon people. We are all salmon people. If you live in the Northwest, you are a Waikanushpum. Two, as a Waikanushpum, it is important to learn about salmon, healthy rivers and streams, and the environment. It is also important to take good care of the environment by not wasting water or electricity and not littering. Also, it says, don't forget to go on walks and hikes with your family. By being out in nature, you can learn more about the world around us. And if you're walking by the right river or stream, you might also get to see a salmon. Yes?
I have 2 fun facts about salmon.
Tell me some fun. Okay, you've got the last word. What are 2 fun facts about salmon?
First fact is that the reason why salmon have the top part is black and the bottom part is a lighter color is because when the fish look up, it's a lighter color, but if they look down into the water, it's a darker color. So that's why they have their upper part is black and then their other downer part is orange. And then another one is that salmon can live in saltwater and freshwater.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Now's the time to go to your learning community and to enjoy your salmon activity book. And I have one extra salmon activity book in case someone else would like that. Yes, we'll get it to you. We are surrounded by the earth's gifts of beauty, diversity, and power. And we are called to be stewards and caregivers of our amazing and fragile earth, the pale blue dot. Let us offer back our gifts of money, skills, and service to our ongoing shared work with the Creator God. This is the time to share our offering. share together our offertory prayer. Creator God, with love you have given us the gift of life to enjoy and to share. Accept our offerings as an expression of our deep thanks and concern for those in need, including your creation and our planet Earth. Amen. And now we'll have a reading from Proverbs by Jim Dyson.
In the Inclusive Bible, the reading today is from Proverbs 8:22 through 33. Yahweh gave birth to me. My name is Wisdom. Yahweh gave birth to me at the beginning, before the first acts of creation. I have been from everlasting in the beginning, before the world began. Before the deep seas, I was brought forth, before there were fountains or springs of water, before the mountains erupted into place, before the hills I was born. I was born before God created the earth or its fields, or even the first clods of dirt. I was here when the Almighty created the heavens and set the horizon just above the ocean, when God set the clouds in the sky and established the springs of the deep, when God gave the seas their boundaries and set their limits at the shoreline. When the foundation of the earth was laid out, I was the skilled artisan standing right next to the Almighty. I, Wisdom, was God's delight day after day, rejoicing at being in God's presence continually, rejoicing in the whole world and delighting in humankind. Here ends our lesson for the day.
Thank you, choir. Today's guest speakers come to us from a friendship through John Cox, who's here today with his wife, Judy. And they are neighbors of Cindy and Laura and Bruce, and a friend to Shalom. And while the speakers may come today to address the Native American boarding school experiences, we've really asked them to come and share principally anything that they would like to share, what visions that tribes have for their future, and what we can do to work with tribes, and anything else that they would like to share with us. At the end of the service, we'll have a brief time for coffee, and then a bell will ring, probably earlier than normal, and the bell will ring, and that will be your invitation to join us in Fellowship Hall for a further conversation and a time of questions and answers by our guest speakers. Our first speaker is Curtis Bertram, who shares this about himself. I'm a 67-year-old enrolled member of the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, happily married to Phyllis, his wife of 48 years, who's here with us today as well. We have 3 children, he writes, and 8 grandchildren. And Curtis is a retired security police officer of the Hanford Patrol from the Hanford site. So Curtis will speak first, and then we'll hear from Milena. Milena Fairlight Pinkham is an enrolled member of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. Milena was born and raised in the Tri-Cities, and after working 6.5 years as an in-house counsel for the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, she is now a staff attorney at the Northwest Justice Project. And Milena has been a member of the Tri-City Intertribal Organization since 2013. So first we'll hear from Curtis, and then we'll hear from Milena. Let's welcome our guest today, Shalom.
Good morning, and thank you, Pastor Steve. And thank you, Phyllis and Dr. John Cox, for allowing me to address your congregation today. It's a great honor to be able to speak before a congregation such as this, young and old. It was great to see the children to come forth and be able to speak their minds. That's what's needed in today's world. Without the ability to communicate to one another and use these, that's what's needed more and more. First of all, this congregation is great. It's great to see that people are able to meet, worship our Creator as you want to. I and my wife were baptized Roman Catholics. My experience with the boarding school was a good one. I attended St. Libre Indian School in Ashland, Montana. Ashland, Montana is in southeastern Montana, way out in the middle of nowhere. Highway 212 runs through it, east and west. There's 3 small reservation towns, there's 4 small reservation towns of the Northern Cheyenne Indian Reservation. The reason I was that locale and that reservation, my father, Ben Bertram Sr., was an enrolled member of that tribe. My tribal lineage is Walla Walla, or in their language, Walulapum, Yakima, which actually consists of 14 different tribes and bands of the Yakima Indian Nation. And of those 14 tribes and bands of Indian Nation, I was Wishcom. If you look at Celilo Falls, or this area where Celilo Falls were at one time, before it's inundated behind one of the many dams which provide power, which is needed today. It's very evident here, our lights are on, the microphone is working. That was needed for that era. So my grandfather and my maternalistic side fished at spearfish. Therefore, that area of that tribe was called Wishcom. My father is Northern Cheyenne, or Sista in his language, and the Walla Walla tribe is called Walulapum in their language. Both parents spoke English and their native tongue. My father Sista, my mother Walulapum. People ask me, why don't you speak it? Well, my parents were products of a boarding school of a different era. They were raised primarily at Chamawa Indian Boarding School, which is down in the Salem, Oregon area, and is still in existence today. If you Google Indian boarding schools, you'll see that there are hundreds of them across the United States. Some initiated back in the mid-1800s, 1850s, 1860s. And if you read more and more about that, there's much information, much more than I can cover in the time that I have today. So I'll speak primarily of the good aspects that my parents told me of their raising in the boarding schools. Dad always said, hey, I got to play baseball. I learned how to play football. Met many friends that were raised with the same reservation. Met many acquaintances from other reservations, from Oklahoma, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Washington, even Northern California. So in that way, he was able to meet these people, which gave him a broader understanding, just as all of us here get to travel across this country and abroad, making many acquaintances, meeting new different languages and cultures and people which always share what they have, which is important. That's how we all here grow. That's how these children down here listen to their answers to their questions. They had listened. They were willing to share with us their knowledge. That's how all of us grew the same way. My wife Phyllis and I met at St. Libre Indian Boarding School. She had a tougher time, one, because she was non-native. I had a tough time because I did not speak the two primary languages of the two tribes that went there. One was Northern Cheyenne, one was Crow. And those reservations butted up against each other. Any of you who maybe traveled to Custer Battlefield in southeastern Montana, that's where the part of the country that we grew up in. I started attending St. Libre when I was in 6th grade. Prior to that, we lived down here. I attended the Umatilla Grade School, Athena Grade School, even Adams Grade School, but I was only in kindergarten. I don't remember much, except playing a lot and having a good time. After my parents decided to move to Montana, the reason for that, I was told, was one, we had established a household in my mother's homeland, just south of present-day Adams, Oregon, out in the rolling countries of the dry land wheat and pea farming area. So my father wanted to take us remaining children that were still in school, go back to his homeland, let us experience how he grew and his language, his culture, just like all of you here, where your people come from. My wife, their people came from Europe, from Germany. When they came here, they went to Wisconsin. That's where they were. They're German. So when I was getting to know her family, I would speak to my mother-in-law, Rita. She shared much with me, excuse me. Her family opened up their home to me. Which helped me give me a better understanding, not only of my religion, which was good. My father was of a native religion. My mother was of a religion down here. As we all know, religion comes from here, which is taught and shared and carried on and practiced. And that's the hardest thing to do, all of us here, is to practice how we worship, how we love one another, and how we carry that religion on from day to day to other people. That's the important part. That's why there is religion, to always believe in one Creator, regardless of how we worship, regardless of the songs, regardless of the different books that we learn from. The Black Book. It is in every religion, whether you're in the Middle East, whether you're in Asia. Everyone has written texts which to learn, which to share. St. Libre was very important to me. One, it taught me a better understanding of the different tribes, because down here, we were all just Umatilla. Umatilla consists of 3 tribes, as Pastor Steve said, the Cayuse, the Walla Walla, and Umatilla. And I mentioned the 14 different tribes and bands of the Yakama Nation. So as I learned more about the people back there and learned more about my religion through education, and education is very important, as we all know. That's how my parents learned to speak English. I had people come up to me and ask, well, why don't you speak Cheyenne? Why don't you speak Walla Walla? So I asked Mom first, then Dad, as we all know how parents go. And Mom said, well, because they had such a hard time learning English. And I was taught that English is one of the hardest languages to learn. So those of us that speak and understand and can write English, congratulate ourselves, because those people that come from other countries, they have a hard time. The ESL people, English as a second language, whether it be Spanish, whether it be Japanese, Korean, Chinese, Russian, German, Polish, whatever language. So that's how we're able to carry on our cultures and our languages. Dad, well, Dad's being Dad, and I'd being the third son. You know, you walk up to Dad and say, Dad, why don't I speak English? There was a long pause. So I stood there and waited, and he said the same thing Mom did. He said, you must remember that today's lifestyle, today, all around us has changed. And for you to be productive and be a good part, a good member of today's world, you must speak a common language. So this is our common language. When I go to the different ceremonies, whether it be on the Walla Walla Reservation or back in Montana, I may as well be in a foreign country. I hear the languages, I hear the songs, just like the songs that are sung here. I understand these songs because I understand English. On the Umatilla Reservation and the longhouse structures, which are the long ceremonial buildings where things are carried out, I don't understand them, yet I stand in silence and in respect, just as I did here today, to respect all of you. This is the way you congregate, how you sing and how you worship. It's important. When we go to Montana, we attend different functions the same way. You stand in silence and respect, as it should be. St. Librandon School is a parochial school. It helped me understand the Catholic religion, which I was baptized into and still practice today and believe in. I even one time considered becoming a member of the Capuchin priesthood. They gave me that opportunity. We had a private school. We had transportation back to the seminary at St. Lawrence Seminary in Wisconsin, at Monroe, at Marathon. And which, well back through that freshman year in high school, I was able to go to Milwaukee and all through Wisconsin and down to Chicago to different Native American groups, such as our ACES group, which John is the president of. ACES stands for the American Indian Science and Engineering Society. We have a local chapter here, the Columbia River chapter, and thanks to the effort of John Cox, we're the #1 ACES group in the United States. Congratulations, John Cox. Getting back to the boarding school experience, it was hard, of course, when you leave home. We were there from Monday to Friday, got to get on the bus and come home every weekend. I asked Mom, well, did you come home on the weekends? And she just smiled. They were there year-round. I had no idea. Dad never talked much about the length of way because many of the people young men that were sent down to Chihuahua, they were able to communicate, share their experiences, grow together, just as Mom did. And later on, I remember asking my mom, did my aunts and uncles go? She had a brother named Lester and 2 sisters, Eleanor and Teresa. And she told me, well, yeah, she was basically their mom because they went at an earlier age and they were much younger than my mother, Cecilia. So she helped raise them while they were at Chihuahua. And they stayed there until they finished school, and then they returned home down here outside of Pendleton on the Umatilla Reservation. It took me some time to understand that because my experience with boarding school was a very positive one. I was very active. Debate, drama in high school, football. I couldn't play basketball. Basketball back in the reservations is the #1 sport. I didn't know. I had a hard time walking and then dribbling the ball. But I met another friend, which was my brother-in-law, Mike. He was in the same boat. He wasn't a basketball player. He didn't speak Crow or Cheyenne, even though later on in life he married a young, beautiful lady from the Crow Reservation. And they still live there near the reservation in a town called Hardin. So we experienced many things, and he too was traveled to Wisconsin. We traveled there and experienced the introduction to the priesthood. But after those first few years, we decided not to. I returned home, finished my high school experience, my education, attended the University of Montana a short time, my college experience, and then returned home and then married my wife Phyllis. 47 going on 48 years later and 3 children, and as we said, 8 grandchildren later, we're still together and enjoying life, as all of us should, and all of us are. Those of which you are here are showing me that. One, you're practicing your religion. You're sitting here listening to me. I'm watching your eyes. I see your ears. Later on, please join in the room back here and ask any question you have. I do presentations throughout the Tri-Cities and outlying areas, from kindergarten to college level, WSU, CBC. I do dance presentations. I do other talks, specific topics. If they want to know about language, I'll speak about the language topic. My mother, Cecilia, was very instrumental, matter of fact, in getting the language program started down here at the Umatilla Reservation with the assistance of a professional linguist, Dr. Noel Rude. Now we have a dictionary. The same with the Yakama Nation. They too have a dictionary. The preservation of language is very important. Many of the Indian languages you can't translate into English. That's why when you hear certain words, to you and me, it's a single word. But to turn it into the native language, it's very descriptive. That's why people say, boy, the Indian language is kind of hard because you say one word and it means all of this. It's because the native languages attempt to describe what the single English word is. It's just like you take the English word there. Okay, how many different theirs are there? There is possessive, so on and so forth. It just goes on and on and on, as we know. But I want to thank all of you for giving me this chance to use this time to speak to you and share my languages. Not only that, my experience with the boarding school. My parents, they never spoke negative about it. They were able to, at that time in their generation, to still be able to speak their language. So which is good, because they were able to carry that and the tribal customs, all the different cultural practices, simple things such as dancing, the music. People say, well, when you watch Indian dance, it looks like he's out there just jumping around. Just like any other type of dancing, whether it be ballet, clogging, modern styles of dance, one thing, you listen to the music. You keep time with the music. The music is just like your heartbeat. Always going. We use this, the motion of our body, to interact with the music. Nowadays we use the words, just as Native Americans use the same words. People say the Indian music just sounds like a bunch of hi. Well, it's just like any other song. You take a song like America the Beautiful or any other song in the church, sometimes a single word carries on and on and on, and it finally cuts off and then goes on to the next verse. The same thing with Native American music. It's not just noise. Early Native Americans listened to your early music and thought, what are they doing? It's just noise. So when you go to other cultures, other countries, and you experience their cultures, think that, well, look how long these people have lasted. They say some of the earliest and longest lasting cultures, the Asian cultures, the Indian cultures of Middle East, the Middle American cultures, the Middle Eastern cultures. Look how long they've lasted. Look at the pyramids. Go down to look at the Aztec culture. Look at the people here. Yesterday we attended a get-together down at the Heritage Park. And we were representing the Manhattan Project. Many of us here are very well aware of the Manhattan Project. The National Park Service, which Phyllis and I are volunteers of, we had a presentation table there, and we had over a couple hundred people stop and inquire. It was amazing to find out the number of people that actually live here, and they looked at our table and our information and said, what's the Manhattan Project? Well, so we enlightened them what the Manhattan Project was. As I said in my little information bio, I worked 39 years on the site as a security police officer. At all the areas, from the Federal Building, east, west, 300, 400 area, until 400 area got shut down, all the way out to 100 end. I was a docent for a couple of years, and that job was very easy to me because I could take a busload of 60 to 70 people. They weren't going anywhere. They were stuck in that bus, and they had to listen to me. So as I rambled on about the Rattlesnake Mountain, which we call Lalik in our language, the Columbia River, which we call Chabna, the rolling hills, And I used to tell them, well, as you look out the window, all you see is a bunch of sand and sagebrush. But to us Native Americans, it was a way of life. It was our food all around us. The different wild berries that grew, the roots, our kaush, as we call it, chush, as we call water. Beginning of our ceremonies, we always drink chush. Why? Because as we all know, without water, none of us would be here. Very important. That's why when you hear the Native Americans speak of the cleanliness of the water, they say, oh, those Indians, they want this. Oh, those Indians want that. Oh, those Indians. We're doing it for the benefit of all of us here, to keep the salmon going, to keep the water pure and clear so that we can drink it and eat it, keep the air as pure as possible. These are gifts that were given to us, as we all know. We had nothing to do with it. We were born into it from our mothers. So when you walk out the door and you look at the old soul up above the sun, absorbing the healthful rays, helping us to live day after day, breathing the air. Simple things such as that. Stop and think about those poor people who have trouble breathing, those people who have trouble hearing, those people who have trouble eating, and how lucky we are that we still have that available to us so that we can communicate, talk, sing, read the written word, praise our God as we are able to in this country. My father was a veteran of World War II, fought in World War II down the islands in the South Pacific. My brother Bruce, Vietnam veteran, 69. My father-in-law Herb, Korean veteran. So when people talk about Native Americans fighting for their homelands, those people in their time and generation did the same thing, believe it or not. Regardless of whether or not people say, well, we shouldn't have been there. We were there to help those people. Help is a great word when you stop and think about it. What kind of help? Need help to walk, help to sit in the chair, help to see something, help to paint, help to build something. That's what help is. That's important. So anytime some neighbor says, say, can you help me? I know we all become say, oh, I'm kind of busy, meaning that, oh, I really don't want to. But let's extend that hand. Let's extend that open ear and help one another. Because without help, look at this building. Who helped build this? Who helped finance it? Look at that organ pipe. I was looking at that. I was really admiring that. Be a piano player. Who taught him how to play that so that we could all enjoy that? You could all sing. The sound technician man back there. The technology through the Zoom, which is being done right now. First time I heard of Zoom, I said, do what? Dr. Cox says, we're going to have a Zoom meeting. I was like, okay. Let me fire up my old CPU here and see where's the on button, where's my camera. Of course, the camera was the wrong spot, this and that. But we were able to carry on business through that period of time a few years back, which we've all survived. Of course, we all knew people that didn't. They're in a better place now, which we will someday be with. So I'm going to end my talk. Any one of you who want to, again, like I said, please come back to the room and speak with us, ask questions. We're always open, always available. So now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Malena. She'll share her experience. Now remember, Malena is a different person. She's had different experiences, different opportunities present to her and her family. So please welcome Malena Lee Pinkham.
Forgive me, I put some of my notes on my phone. I'm not texting while I'm talking to you. So my name is Melina Fairlight Pinkham. As was indicated, I'm enrolled in the Grand Ronde tribe, which is down in Oregon, though most of my family lives on the Yakima Reservation My mom was non-Indian, Dutch, Basque, and Irish, and then my father is full-blood member of many different bands, primarily Palouse, Wayampum. The band was confederated under 2 different tribes, so half of our family lives on the Yakima Reservation, and then the other half lives on the Nez Perce Reservation. As Curtis indicated, there's really a variety of experiences that people had at boarding schools. I'm only 42, so I didn't go to boarding school. Many of my aunts and uncles did, and my father was young enough that he was actually moved to be hidden from BIA agents because attendance at boarding schools was compulsory. So what's been going on in Ukraine has really been reminding me a lot of the Native American experience. So if you could, I guess, do me the favor of sort of walking through this example with me. So you're living your life, raising your children, someone shows up and says, you have something that we need, you have resources, you have space, we want to practice our religion the way that we want to, so we're going to stay. You're put on a plot of land separate from communities and the resources that you have and the ability to continue to fish and hunt and things like that. That the people that have invaded you have then formed a country. So it's about 1776 now. About 50 years later, they decide that the native people, or the people that are in this example, aren't assimilating well enough. They're not speaking the language, they're not practicing the culture, and so the idea is to use religion as a way to force people to believe in a God that's foreign to their culture. You have to learn the religion, the language to practice the religion, so out of sort of the goodness of their hearts, they create these schools that are compulsory. Sometimes people gave their children over willingly because they wanted their children to have access to a dominant culture, to speak the language, to be successful. Sometimes they didn't. And so in those situations, either children were taken because maybe you had an older child taking care of little ones and they were considered, that was considered child abuse. Or the ability to access resources, to have food, medical care, was denied to the entire family if you did not hand over your children. So people would hand over children. It's not just your family's children, it would be the entire community's children, so an entire generation. Many times children didn't return and you weren't given an explanation, or they would return 5, 10, 15 years later as strangers. This happened for 188 years. One of the compulsory schools that I'm describing was officially closed down in 2007. So you have multiple generations of people who are not raised by their parents. Parents haven't developed parenting skills. Parents have a limited ability to pass on culture, to pass on language. So you have a generation, multiple generations of people who are very, very angry. They're very angry, they're very hurt. They're still treated by society, even though they've learned the language, learned the religion, they're still treated as outsiders, not given full rights, not even made full citizens until 1952. So I'm a product of a generation that went to boarding schools, raised by parents who seek out either addictions or emotional addictions, who don't necessarily have the ability to connect with children, have sort of internalized shame, a really strong desire to practice the culture and to survive, but also an internalized shame because you've been taught for most of your life that your people are primitive, that they're taking up, resources, that they're frustrating the utility grid because they want to get rid of dams because of the fixation on fish. So you just have a generation of a lot of anger and a lot of mistrust of a dominant culture because, the United States isn't going anywhere. The only way to really undo a lot of this injustice isn't possible. And I can tell you from working as in-house counsel at the Umatilla tribe that though the official policy of forcing assimilation and genocide has ended, the unspoken policy has not changed. So we still have Native people humiliated as mascots. I mean, we have the Kamaikan Braves in the Tri-Cities, which numerous times I've tried to write letters and have that mascot changed, and it hasn't been changed. And that's not unique to our community. We still have women who are hunted down and taken by the thousands, and law enforcement doesn't act. We still have public schools that teach an inaccurate history, that celebrate Lewis and Clark, that celebrate the founding of the state, that celebrate the founding of the country, celebrate people as heroes that came to settle open lands, and no one's explained to them why these, to the children, why these lands were open. We still have Indian child welfare systems that remove Native children at a higher rate than any other race. We still have dams that are prioritizing energy efficiency and costs over Native culture and the ability of entire species of fish to survive. So the state and federal government have not ended their policy to assimilate Native people. The amount of resources that are given tribes being forced to negotiate with the state and federal government in ways that the federal government says, this is the only way that we'll interact with you. So we have to assimilate ourselves and sort of beg for resources. So I would say that though the form has changed, the intent has not changed. The things that I've seen be successful are non-Indians becoming anti-racist. So whether it's working on Native issues, Black issues, Latino issues, becoming anti-racist and seeking actual justice helps all other communities of color, particularly our culture, and understanding the things that we fight for, whether it's salmon, clean air, the ability to have language programs that need federal funding, all of those things help our culture survive, and we define what our culture survival is in our way. It's not necessarily interpreted through another culture and what another culture decides needs resources. So I really would recommend becoming anti-racist, listening to Native communities. Mascots are a big deal. I went to Kennewick High. I grew up going to games where the students from Kamaikan would have little headbands on and face paint and be walking around going, oh, Our yearbook had a picture of one of the years had a lion with a trail of blood and feathers behind it, and that was supposed to be sort of deemed school spirit. So I grew up with the same internalized shame about my culture. So the best recommendation that I can give is to become anti-racist in your life, in the way that you use your resources, the way you interact with people. And really use your voice. Non-Indians listen to non-Indians, just the same way that when you deal with sexism, men are more likely to listen to men. People that are able-bodied are more likely to listen to people who are able-bodied about ways to help deal with their own prejudice. So your ability to interact with your community is much more effective than anything we can ever do, and so I would encourage you to use that opportunity. I'll be happy to speak with anybody afterwards if you have any questions, but thanks for this opportunity.
Our final hymn this morning is number 576, For the Healing of the Nations. In body or spirit, please rise as we sing.
For
redeemed from war and hatred. All may come and go in peace. Show us how through care and goodness fear will die and hope increase. All that kills abundant living, let it from the earth be banned. Pride of status, race, or schooling, dogmas that obscure your plan. In our common quest for justice, may we hallow life's brief span. You, Creator God, have written your great name on humankind. For our growing in your likeness, bring the life of Christ to mind, that by our response and service, earth its destiny may find.
We are so grateful that you are here today. We are so grateful for the words spoken and the setting of the table for our future conversation today and going forward. So for the sharing of Milena and for the sharing of Curtis, we give thanks once again. We're going to have time for coffee, but get your coffee and cookies quickly and move into the fellowship hall. We don't want to take much time to transition into that time of sharing and questions and answers, and I think what will be very rich and enriching dialogue. For those of you who are wearing orange, and some of us had to look far and wide for orange, I'm wearing an orange, kind of a rust-colored t-shirt underneath, and I did find a stole that did have a little bit of orange in it, so that's good as well, I suspect. But on Friday, and this is September 30, not 25 as it's written in the bulletin, but on Friday, September 30, we're invited to wear orange and have conversations. And there's information in the Sharetella, and of course you can find information online and some very helpful sharing by our guests today. So for our sending forth, will you join me? On Friday, September 30, we are invited to wear orange so that we will remember and honor all the indigenous children who went to residential schools. Let us pray for the residential schools and intergenerational survivors who are still struggling. Let us give thanks for those who speak the truth and work to shine a light on injustice. In the name of compassion and the spirit of truth and reconciliation, help us, God, to remember and act on this every day. Walk with us as you walked with the children. Amen.